What's going on, guys? I am Simple Simon. I'm your comic book noob. Welcome to the NOOB REBIRTH. What are you doing down there, man? That's not good. Say hi, Mark. Hi, Mark. Today we're going to be talking about something. Does continuity matter? That's the topic.
Continuity in what? In your grocery list? In your in the way you walk down the road? In what are we talking about? Continuity in the way the world spins? What are we talking about?
We'll get into that. But before we do, if you guys are new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe, hit that thumbs up, buckle up.
Buckle up.
Is that cool? I think I've said
Suit up!
Suit up and let's do this.
I'm comfortable.
Before we start, mate, I've got a gift for you.
A gift?
Yeah.
You're not going to hug me,
I
are
wasn't
you?
expecting that, were you?
You're not going to kiss me, are
I'm
you?
gonna kiss you, mate. That wouldn't be a gift, that'd be torture. I got something for you. Just to start the show off with a sweet, dynamic duo moment.
Okay.
It's nothing big.
You don't have to get me anything.
Yeah, I know, but it was just like I saw it and I was like, you're not even into these? I know you're not a pop guy, but I bought you a pop. Just because I saw a character, I just feel like, oh, I'm gonna get that for Mark.
Okay.
Yeah, alright, ready? There you go, mate.
Well, a blade.
Yeah.
Oh, I like blade.
You like Blade?
Yeah.
You love Blade, that's why I got it.
Oh, cool. Thanks, buddy.
I know you're not a big pop guy, but I was like, Blade, you might like that one.
Thanks, buddy. I'll add that to my collection.
Oh, good, mate.
Thanks, buddy.
Next week will be on the shelf for sale.
Give me a... No way, mate. They'll go upstairs, mate. I've got a whole line of pops that people are giving me. Look, it's Blade. That's right. So is it the Wesley Snipes Blade? Or comic book Blade?
It looks
or
like Wesley Snipes.
Or is it the... I think it looks... Oh, maybe. No, but it's got two swords. I think it's the comic book Blade.
Didn't have two swords in Blade? Pretty sure.
Well, they did make the comic book Blade look like Wesley Snipes
After the movie.
Yes.
Because they love doing that, don't they?
Yes, and that's a nice segue into continuity.
So, tell me, Mark,
Tell you
what makes you like a story in comic books?
in comic books,
Yeah.
intrigue, action,
Action.
lick-worthy.
Oh, yes.
I don't really look for anything.
So there's nothing you look for in a story. What?
Not really.
I'll give you an example. For me, right, I'm very simple, right? I like a story which makes, like you said, intrigue, that makes me want to know what happens.
Yeah,
That's a good one to get me going. I guess certain characters I'm really intrigued with, maybe because I can relate to them and things like that. And I also want to understand what's going on, where a lot of the times I read books, I have no idea what's going on.
Sometimes that's a good thing though, because they make you want to keep reading.
Yeah, but sometimes I don't know what's going on, but I want to know, and that's the whole part
That's
of
correct.
I want to know what happens.
Correct.
But then sometimes I don't know what's going on, and I really don't care.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, there are some books who I just don't know what's going on, but I keep reading because I want to know, because I know ultimately he will tell us. You know, a lot of Tom King stuff is like that.
Yes.
You know?
So, for example, Heroes in Crisis, everyone hates that story, but I enjoyed it up until the end because I wanted to know what happened, and then when it happened, I was like, oh, is that all?
Yeah, but then another good example is, Mr. Miracle by Tom King. You know, he never gives you everything. He doesn't spoon feed you, and that's what intrigues me. Sometimes, yeah, it's good to read a story that you know what's going to happen, pretty much. You know, ultimately Batman's going to win. You know, ultimately Superman's going to win. You know, even though Spider-Man might get hurt, he's gonna come on top in the end. But when you're reading stuff like, from an indie type writer who writes obscure about characters, you just don't know where it's going to go, because that's the projects that some writers take on, is characters that don't sell or don't have their own comic book, so they're given creative freedom, and that's what allures me.
I guess something that happens with comic book fans, they get really upset when something doesn't match the canon. When something doesn't make sense with the continuity.
You know what makes me upset?
What?
Sore toes. That's what makes me upset.
Something with
A
toes.
real world problem.
Something with toes.
That's what I'm saying. When I get sore toes, that's what upsets me.
Why would you even get sore toes?
Because I work very hard and walk around. I go up and downstairs, walk around the store, serve customers. I do my job. I get sore toes. Yeah, but that's what upsets me, real world problems.
Not so much comic book stuff. Bullcrap. Okay. Let's go. We're going out of comic books, but in comic book movies, how upset are you about the Superman thing about letting his dad die?
I'm very upset.
Exactly.
I'm very upset, but I don't let it. But it's okay to be upset.
But
I'm just.
You're one of those passionate comic book people, though, that
I am.
will read something and be like, "That's crap because of this reason, because this doesn't match up."
Yes, but I accept it. But I'm allowed to voice my opinion.
Yeah, of course. But do you think?
But I won't.
Do you think that the continuity matters as far as like everything should match up?
Well, that's a point of view, isn't it? To be honest, because everyone, let's use Man of Steel for an example, okay? So obviously the writer who wrote that movie, David S. Goyer, and he was probably instructed by studio executives to go a different way, to put a different Superman out there. Have a bit of creative freedom, I suppose. Don't do the norm. And he did that, and yeah, he got to respect that, I suppose, in a sense, being that he's an artist. In my opinion, Superman has been around for 80 years, and the source material has been around for 80 years, and it's not like his comic book has ever stopped. It's always there. So obviously there's a reason why that comic book has never stopped. That source material should be respected also. There's always a point of view to look at it, different points of view. From an artist wants to put a stamp on the character, make it his own, but at the end of the day, also that other point of view is that it's not his own.
And I find that's where a lot of the stuff comes into play, where a lot of writers will kind of want to just do things their way rather than follow the continuity. But do you think that matters? Would you prefer things to just all make sense and
you can't
timelines?
You can't go from paper to celluloid exactly the same. Marvel has proved that. Marvel have, for instance, Marvel movies and the comic books, they're different. They're way different. The comics have got 80 years, over 80 years of history.
The movie continuity makes sense.
That's right.
The comic book ones is so messy.
It's not really that messy. It's just because there's a lot of it. That's why, right? So you got 80 years of it. So you got the mess of the 70s. You got the glory days of the 80s and 90s. So it's not messy. It's just a lot of it. Whereas the MCU has got only a couple of years. But the thing is, they found a really good mix between using the source material from, say the Ultimate Comics and the regular universe. So they made the MCU. They had a really good mix. Whereas the other studio, they just do whatever they think is going to sell toys. Basically, it's continuity is good, and Marvel has proved that. Having continuity throughout all their movies and TV shows, we've been spoiled. So when we don't get that from the other brand, right, we're upset. We're confused. We're like, oh, what do we do? It hurts because we love these stories and we love these characters, but at the end of the day, it's all about opinion based. Opinion based.
I guess one of the things is, when I think about the question, does continuity matter? Straight off the bat, my head thinks yes, it does. I want everything to make sense because it's kind of a cool concept.
Absolutely.
Everything to come back together and be this one universe.
Absolutely.
But then when I read like Elseworlds stories or little mini series and things like that, I quite enjoy them. For example, White Knight was fantastic.
Yeah.
That was a completely different storyline and things like that.
But that's what they did in the 80s, the comic books, or in the 90s with the Elseworlds stamp, that every book had. You had Red Sun, you had Gotham by Gaslight,
But for some reason, that's why I don't care about What If, because What If's just like, there's so many stories out there, I don't have time for a story about what if this happened. Well, guess what, mate? You just said it didn't happen.
But it was really good. Like Red Sun was such a great book when it came out. Mark Miller absolutely blew people out of like what? Superman landed in Russia? What the hell? So it was really good. It was a really good take on it. I enjoyed that one. But also the continuity is good. Like knowing Superman, died, and came back, and then writing a story now that makes that you understand that happened. And it's sort of like, that's what continuity does. from a marketing point of view, that's really hard to market for too. They want new readers. With comic book companies, they constantly want new readers. So it's really hard to say, oh, if you pick up Action Comics 1036, you'll know Superman has been on War World before, you know, pre-Flashpoint. You know, that's where he found the Eradicator. But, you know, so you have to read, so it's really hard for comic book companies to promote that. But at the same time, for their advantage, they could go back, people can go back and buy back issues, but that's not going to benefit them because those back issues aren't coming from their coffers. So it doesn't make sense for them to do that.
Continuity sounds good, but I think for a new reader, it's hella confusing.
It's hella confusing.
Because again, there's those 80 years that you didn't read, and that's where I find jumping into DC Marvel stuff, I'm just like,
and that's why I always say floppies are always good for the collector, or will always be for the collector, and the trades will always be for the reader.
I need to stop being a collector.
But you can just collect the ones that you want to leak. So I'm not a big horror guy when it comes to indie titles. I do read some, but I'm not like a massive horror guy when it comes to indie titles. But you know, sci-fi and indie superheroes and all that I love because there's not much history, and it's always interesting to see because the hardest thing about writing an indie superhero book is doing hasn't been done before. You know, so the innovative ideas that the creators come up with to not copy Superman or not copy Batman or Aquaman or whoever. So that's one of the things that interests me when reading an indie superhero book is that their take on it. Not many creators can create their own superhero universe. So it's always interesting to see what they come up with.
Is there a winning formula?
Yeah, good writing and good art together. You know, when a writer and an artist come together and they do a passionate project together, then that's a winning formula. Absolutely. Jeff Lemire, for example. Jeff Lemire, Bendis, Brian Michael Bendis, Rick Remender, they all tend to use artists. The same artists throughout the whole series. When they're doing the series, they use the same artists. They don't chop and change throughout that series. The writers, you know, same with Robert Kirkman. You know, use the same artists throughout that whole series of Walking Dead and Invincible. You know, it's that combination. Keep the continuity of the art as well as the story.
Yeah, that's what I hate the most. When the artists change midway through the story.
Yeah.
Some books there's like 3 artists doing the one.
Yeah, correct. And Marvel will tend to do that. They contract an artist to do 6 issues, and then the next 6 issues the artist changes.
I feel like most people obviously like the continuity, but I think it's always never going to work with so many different writers, so many different series and things like that with the big two. First thing that comes to my mind is like Killing Joke, which people will argue whether it's part of.
Oh, so when Killing Joke came out, that was never part of continuity. Alan Moore was never part of it, but it was so popular, they put it into continuity.
Yeah.
So that was a good example.
3 Jokers, that's another one.
It's still in continuity. But where in the continuity?
It's not in continuity because Red Hood and bloody Babs.
But where in continuity? That's the thing. It is in continuity, but where? How come it's never mentioned in Scott Snyder's Batman? Right?
Because Scott Snyder wants to do his own thing.
It's definitely in continuity. I believe so. You know, Jeff Lemire did a whole run of Thanos. He built that comic book. It was an ongoing comic book. And then when Jeff Lemire sort of like left the series, they brought in Donny Cates and he did his own thing. Stuff continuity, like I always said, they're being told where to go. The writers are just putting the dialogue and the story. This is where we want Batman to go, right? So we want you to write the story to go there. And you know, as a paycheck, paying rent, and that's easy to do. You know, yeah, I could do that, but you know, having your own owner creator stuff is always going to be more alluring to writers and artists. So you know, more and more writers will be doing that. And that's why you know Tinian is leaving. I mean, because Tinian's a seller. Having a creative vision for a character, those days are gone.
Alright, that is all we got for you guys today.
That is all.
Until next time, guys. Say bye, Mark.
Bye, man.
Keep it simple.
I was hoping it'll come before free comic book day so I can stamp my books. Because some of them got places to stamp the books.
Yeah, I know, but people don't like it when you stamp the books.
Too bad, I'm cool. I don't give a fuck what people like.
Alright, better not be stamping my books. All you gotta do, Mark, is carry the show. I mean, I'm looking slim. I'm
What
gonna
did I just carry you?
Yeah, you always carry me. Look at me, man. I'm looking slim. I'm on a diet at the moment. Trying to lose weight for this weekend's Comic Con and free comic book day videos. Looking slim.